Hello, 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 hello. Come on, come on, come on. We in here. Y'all see who we got now? Y'all see who we got now? You see it? We in here. We live with the doctor. Huh? Yeah, y'all see who it is now. So we got Dr. the illustrious William A. Bell. Doc, we glad to have you. We glad to have you, man.
Glad to be here. Glad to be
Yes,
here.
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're going to get it so they can hear you.
All right.
Yes, sir. See if you can talk to that.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. You got a real nice setup here.
Yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah. So we midday with this thing. We at 3 o'clock in the daytime. Y'all thought Y'all thought it was gonna be nighttime all the time? No. So we got Dr. Bell in the building. I know Miss Bell is doctor, but we got Dr. Bell in the building. Yeah, so we gonna get started. We ain't gonna hold up because he got his schedule is so busy right now. I know y'all thought he was just sitting at the house. But
or as I tell people, chasing after grandchildren.
Yeah, chasing after grandchildren and going to the school, parent teacher conference. His grandchildren, they be on the rolls over there. I mean.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
no, they're 8 on the roll.
8 on the roll. 8 on the roll. Yeah. What phrase itself is William A. Bell.
There you go.
And A stand for you. You better get it right the first time. So look here, man. We gonna get started. We're gonna start from high school with Mr. Bell.
Okay.
What high school did you go to?
I started out at a Catholic high school called Immaculata High School.
Okay.
And for all those who can go back in the day, that was the most prominent African American Catholic high school besides Holy Family in the city of Birmingham. It closed after my junior year, my 11th grade year, and I transferred to John Carroll High School, and that's where I graduated from.
Okay.
Part of the integration movement.
So after high school, where did you go then?
I left Birmingham and went up to Gaston, attended a community college called Gaston State. I got my AB undergrad degree from there, and then I transferred to the University of Alabama in Birmingham. But back then it wasn't called the University of Alabama. Well, it was called the University of Alabama Extension Center. It wasn't UAB.
Oh, really?
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't UAB.
I'm going to go back.
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, shout out to all the Moors that's in Gaston. That's where my family is.
Oh, really? Well, I
Moors.
consider Gaston my second home.
Yeah, all the Moors up there. That's where Stephen Hart from too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So and he know my family.
Really?
Yeah. So that's first of all. Second of all, shout out to Gaston State Community College, with the basketball coach of Dedrick Tarver. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's one of your frat brothers, Captain Alpha Psi.
Exactly.
Yeah. He's the head coach, basketball coach up there.
Really?
Yeah, I was just with him Saturday. Yeah. So shout out to him. They just celebrated the 100 games. He won 100 games on it. Yeah.
About a couple of years ago, they invited me up, and the school gave me an award, Outstanding Alumnus Award.
Okay.
And I still maintain contacts up there.
Okay.
A lot of people that I went to school with who are now in very prominent positions up there. In fact, this past weekend, I saw one of my friends, Wayne Rowe,
Mm-hmm.
who's the head of a health organization up there. So I try to stay in touch with the people up there, and I don't deny anybody. In fact, when I moved up to Gaston, my dad was teaching at the technical college that was built and developed by a man named Mr. Prater.
Okay.
And he gave my dad an opportunity to come up there and teach brick masonry to people. That was over on the, I think they call it the east, not the east side of town, because we lived in what they call East Gaston, going across the bridge over by the cemetery.
Oh, so he taught it up there.
Yeah, he taught up there.
Oh, okay.
That's how I ended up going to Gaston State.
Okay.
Because my dad taught at the technical school.
Okay.
And I went over to the community college, and we lived off Keelan Bend Road.
Okay.
And that's probably the best time I ever had in terms of getting to know people.
Yeah.
And it's different than Birmingham.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different than Birmingham, but people were very nice to me up there. In fact, I didn't want to leave, but I had to come back and start at UAB.
So didn't he teach at Lawson too?
Yeah.
That's okay.
In fact, midway through my term up there at Gaston State, he ended up coming back here to Birmingham to teach at Lawson State.
Okay.
And another gentleman by the name of Miller took his place, and he and I lived in the same house.
Okay.
After my dad moved back to Birmingham, and then when I finished up there, in fact, I was in a 2-year program that I finished in 18 months. And I was just going to stay on up there the other months, but my dad said, no, you need to come on home. He didn't like the idea of me being up there on my own.
On your own, yeah.
Exactly. Which I had a lot of fun up in.
But if he wouldn't have made you come home, it'd been a lot of William Bell Jr.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. But no, I really love Gaston, and I tell anybody that I see that mention Gaston, that's like my second home.
Yeah.
Because of the people that I met and the times that I had up there. And every now and then I'm invited to come up, speak to the Carver High School alumni. I've been up there many times speaking.
You got a Carver High School there too?
Yeah, it's closed now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they used to have one up there.
Okay.
And they closed it down, and a lot of students started going to Gaston High.
Okay.
And you know, I think it was another school called Emma Sanson.
Okay.
High up there, but now I love Gaston.
Man, that's cool. So shout out to my Gaston family.
Tell you this quick story. At the time that I was up there, Etowah County was a dry county, meaning you couldn't sell alcohol.
Yeah.
But they had a country club, Rainbow City Country Club.
I'm familiar with Rainbow City.
They had a place called Sky. It was on Skyland Boulevard. I forgot the name of the company, but every 4 years during the election time for the sheriff, those places would get raided. And raided by the sheriff department.
Yeah.
It was so funny because they would go to like the country club at Rainbow City. They raid the place. The only person they would arrest would be the bartender. All the other patrons would be sitting there, and the bartender would make sure everybody had 2 drinks before he left. He would go with the sheriff.
Yeah.
They'd fingerprint him and charge him with whatever. But then they bring him back to the club. And by the time he got back, people would finish their 2 drinks, and they ready for another round.
Yeah.
The next day, you see a big ass saying, "Sheriff raised illegal whiskey joints." But everybody knew what was going on.
Yeah.
But the gentleman who lived in back of me, he supplied all the alcohol for all the top scale places.
I wonder how many times that bartender was arrested.
Oh, probably every 4 years you get arrested. They leave him big tip and everything. And he probably, you know, I doubt if he ever spent a day in jail.
Yeah.
But it was just election time.
Yeah. Kind of like when they raided Big Hall.
You
didn't say it, I did.
Yeah, you said that, I did.
I know, you didn't say it, I did. So after that, then we had, after you got out of college, then what?
After I got out of college, I went to work for the Jefferson County Probation, Family Court Probation Office.
Really?
I was a probation officer, yeah.
It's a lot I don't know about you.
Yeah, I know, man. People think they know it, but
they don't really know.
In fact, I could not have had a better job because it was a position that while I was a probation officer and I was working with people who got in trouble, but there were 2 sides of the trouble. A lot of the juvenile delinquents, you know, they got shoplifting, truants, and things of that nature. And but then there was also an opportunity to work with kids who came from broken homes, who they needed the protection of the family court to take them into the shelter to make sure they were safe and secure. And so I did that for about 5 or 6 years, and then I went to work for the Xerox Corporation. But I tell people that I got my understanding about my social consciousness from working with the family court, because I saw people in all kinds of conditions, all kinds of situations. The first case that I ever handled as a probation officer, this 15-year-old girl had stabbed a woman 32 times. And to open up a file and see the photographs and things of that nature. But the young lady had a mental problem. And so that, you know, not everything is black and white, what you see. And then, but then I also had a chance to work with people who, you know, took kids that were not their blood relatives into their homes to help raise them and give them an opportunity in life. And even today, I meet kids who, they're probably in their mid to late 60s, who thank me for helping them get back on the straight and narrow. One of my first cases, and you'll like this, I heard you mention Collegeville earlier. My office, my probation office was located in the Collegeville area. I didn't work over on the at the main office, which is on 2nd Avenue North. And one of my other first cases was a kid named John Earl White, who was a truant from Hudson Elementary School. And so I had his file and I went to look for him. And I saw these 3 kids standing by the railroad tracks. You know what a railroad track that you come across there. And so, you know, here I am, you know, I'm being Starsky and Hutch, you know, got my chest all pumped up, letting folks know I'm a probation officer. And I said, I'm looking for a kid named John Earl White. And this one kid said, oh yeah, well, we saw him and, you know, he was down this way over by the housing project and he got on such and such a thing, such and such a thing. So I started walking away, and one of the guys that would help to train me as a probation officer, he said, well, what did you do? I said, what do you mean, what did you do? He said, the young fellow you were talking to. I said, yeah, he told me what John Earl White was. He said, no, that was John Earl White you were talking to. So that was my introduction to college.
You get with it, still like that now.
Exactly. But I met a lot of good people out there, and it was a great experience. And like I said, I got my social consciousness from working with the family court, but then I got my business knowledge. One of my co-workers had just gotten a job. He left family court and went to work for the Xerox Corporation. And they were trying to integrate their sales force, and they were looking for young African Americans to come to work for them. And so I went to work with the Xerox Corporation as a sales representative. And they sent me off to a training program up in the Washington, D.C. area to teach me how to sell, what marketing was all about, and things of that nature. And that gave me my business sense as to what made things tick. You have to remember, I came through college during the Vietnam War era, and a lot of people had a bitter taste about the business community, the corporate community, and things of that nature. But I found out, you know, we talk about capitalism, but that's the basis of America. America was built on capitalism. And working with the Xerox gave me a greater understanding and insight as to what really makes this country tick, and how we've been deprived. When I say we as African Americans, we've been deprived of a lot of things that would help us to build wealth, to build the capacity to transfer wealth to the next generation.
That's right.
We have a lot of people, and I might be getting ahead of where you
want
to go. We have a lot of people who can create wealth for themselves or create income for themselves, but they don't create that generational wealth that's passed on from one generation to the next generation. And sometimes we, because of the obstacles that we have, you know, we have to rob Peter to pay Paul just to keep the lights on, and we don't get a chance to create that generational wealth that's necessary to keep that legacy moving forward. And so my insight and understanding with the Xerox Corporation and subsequent business dealers that I've had gave me some understanding as to how to approach and help people in understanding how to build their companies, how to sustain their companies, and then how to build relationships. I was fortunate that when I went off to school up at Gaston State, my dad took me by the bank on First Avenue. I think it was called, what the bank to say, it was It was First National Bank, and it sat there right on the corner where the John Hand building is right now on 20th Street and First Avenue North. And he gave me an application to get a student loan. And I went in the bank, and my dad introduced me to the banker there. He said, "Now, son, this is your banker." And I'm a banker, all I know is a teller. That's the relationship that I had. My dad told me, said, "You always need to have somebody that you can call your banker. And your banker can help you get loans. He can help you with your finances. He can help you with all of these different things." And so when it came time for me to introduce my son to the world of finance, I think he was 13 years old. I did two things. I took him, when he turned 13, I took him over to the DMV office where he gets your driver's license. I got him a non-driver's license that was an identification card for him. Then I took him down to the bank. I took him down to Citizen Federal, and at the time it was AmSouth. And AmSouth, and I introduced him to two people there. I said, "These are your bankers." One of them was Bunny Stokes. And, Bunny Stokes.
Shout out to Mr. Bunny.
Rest
in peace.
At Citizen Federal.
Yes,
and the other banker, what was the guy's name? I forgot his name. But I told my son, "These are your bankers now. If you got any questions, go see them. You tell the cashier check. You tell them, take some money in. But your banker,
he handles your business.
He handles your business."
Yes, sir.
And that's what I advise any and everybody, especially those individuals, even if you're not going into business for yourself, you need to have a banker because he can give you insight as to how to get a mortgage. He can give you insight as to how to finance a car. He can give you insight as to how to put money aside for yourself.
That's right.
And even if it's a struggle, you need to put some of your money aside for rainy days. But again, I got all of that from my experience in working with the Xerox Corporation. And as an elected official, and I never will forget, I was driving home in 1977 from the Xerox, and they said that back then you could pick up Channel 6, Fox 6 radio, it wasn't called Fox 6 then, on your car radio. You can pick up the actual television station. And I was driving, and they said that I had, well, not me, but that if you wanted to run for city council, you had until 5 o'clock to file to run for the upcoming election in 1977. I had always, like a lot of people, they always say, "I'm going to run, I'm going to get involved in something," but they never do. They think it, but they never do. And when they told me that it only cost $50 to run, and I had exactly $50 in change in my pocket, I went down to City Hall, got an application from the clerk's office, and filled it out to run for city council. And there's a backstory as to why I was running, because I was in an organization that we had been denied our liquor license. First of all, we didn't think we needed a liquor license, but that's another story. But anyway, I filled it out, and I expected the news media to be knocking on my door to say, who are you and why are you running this? And for about 3 weeks, I didn't hear anything from anybody. I mean, and I had almost forgotten that I had registered to run for office. Finally, I got a notice in the mail to come to a candidates forum, and it was being sponsored by the Jefferson County Progressive Democratic Council. I went there, said what I had to say, and oftentimes you think that you have the ability to speak your mind until you get up in front of a crowd. And then you have to get yourself together real quick. But I found out that I had the ability to get up and speak in front of people because of my training with the Xerox Corporation. And so, needless to say, I didn't win in 77, but I caught the attention and the eye of a gentleman by the name of David Hood, who was the president of the Jefferson County Progressive Democratic Party. I think Emory Anthony is now the head of that organization. But anyway, David Hood invited me to come back to their meeting, and he said, "This young man shows a lot of promise, but we need to teach him how to be a candidate. And he has to understand you got to crawl before you walk, you got to walk before you run." And he said, "Now, I don't want you to misunderstand what we mean by that." He said, "The crawling part is to get out in your community. Do do work that nobody else will do. Volunteer to do things that nobody else will do." And he said, and then when you build people's confidence that you have sincere motives for doing things, then your walking phase will come. They'll start giving you responsibility. They'll come to you for advice and help on different things. He said that's your walking phase. When it's time for you to run, the people will tell you it's time to run. And so he assigned me to the North Pratt Civic League, which was headed up by a gentleman by the name of Mr. Willie Johnson.
I heard.
Yeah, and from him I met Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, another couple who Mrs. Johnson was the president of the Jefferson County Democratic Women's Organization. And at the time, to run for City Hall, run for a City Council seat, you ran at large. You didn't run from district. And they didn't have anybody from the Western section that sat on the Birmingham City Council. But my first job, my crawling phase in working with the North Pratt Civic League, they had this old beat up van that on Saturdays, I would have to go and get the van and pick up elderly citizens, take them to the grocery store, take them to the drugstore, whatever errands they needed, I had to get that van and take them there.
That's crawling phase.
Yeah, that's my crawling phase. Naturally, I had to also put the gas in the van to take it to go places. And I was in law school at the time. I was going to law school, and the North Pratt Civic League had, after I had been doing that for not very long, maybe 5 or 6 months, they had 2 pieces of property. One piece of property was over behind Scott Elementary School in Pratt City. The other piece of property was up in Fountain Heights. And they wanted to build a community center and a daycare center. And because I was in law school, they called me lawyer, but I wasn't a lawyer, but I had property law, and I knew how to do the research on the title of the property and this, that, and the other. And surprisingly, I'm thinking that this little old community organization didn't really have any money. I'm thinking, how are they going to build a daycare center and a community center? Over the years, they had saved up a lot of money, and they owned the property outright. But I still had to research the title, and they wanted me to get the builder, the architect, and put all this stuff together. And these people from Pratt City who had limited education but were hardworking people who believed in the community, they built that community center, and it's still, the building still exists right behind Scott School. Right now, it's a little one level building. You know, Scott sits right there on the corner of Cherry Avenue.
I know what's
and how where if you go in the driveway of the school, just on the other side, there's a building that sits back there. That's the North Pratt Civic League. The daycare facility up in Fountain Heights, and I don't know if anything is up there now. But at the time that when we built it and it opened up, it was called the Cadenhead Daycare Center. And they were thriving, open up. That was my walking phase because people trusted me enough to put that responsibility in my hands to help them get that together so that they could build those facilities. Then the election in '79 came up, and Willie Johnson, James Johnson, and Mrs. Johnson, they, along with other folks, asked me if I would run. So that they would get behind me.
So now that's the people telling you
it was time to run. And they made calls to their friends on the east side of town, south side of town, things of that nature. I never will forget, there was a lawyer by the name of Spencer Backus. That was
I remember that name.
He ended up, Spencer Backus was once upon a time the congressman from the 6th Congressional District. He just retired about 4 or 5 years ago. Anyway, he was vice chair of a group called the Voters in the Eastern Area. Mrs. Johnson and James Johnson, they called them up, said, look, we got this young man that we want you all to get behind. And I never will forget on that November evening when I was in, I had made it to a runoff because then you had to elect 5 people to the council. You had 4 people already on the council, but you had to elect 5 more, which made a total of 9. And every 2 years, 5 people would run, and the person with the lowest vote in the previous election would have to run for the other 4. And so I saw my name come across the TV screen. All I saw was the W, and I was the only person that had a W in their first name. And when it came when the bell popped up, my family and everybody.
It was like you had just won the draft.
Exactly. But I never will forget when my dad, he told me, he said, come on, go with me. We walked outside, everybody was jumping up and down. He said, now you going down to City Hall. He said, there's only two things that you take with you. He said, the first thing that you take with you is your name.
That's right.
He said, remember, I gave you your name. Keep it clean.
Mm-hmm.
He said, the second thing that you take down to City Hall is your word. If you give your word, keep your word.
Mm-hmm.
He said, if you do those two things, the rest of it will come easy.
Right.
And for about my first 6 months on the Birmingham City Council, I didn't say anything. I wasn't somebody that jumped up and down and said, hey, look at me.
Mm-hmm.
I want to learn what it took to be a city councilor.
Right.
Because when you win these offices, they don't give you a
plan book,
plan book and all of that. We sit up and we tell those tales that we know this and we know that. But when you really get inside what it takes to run a city government or any governmental agency, it's a whole different ball game. So my attitude was to learn as much as I could before I opened my mouth. Because the first impression that you give somebody is the lasting impression that they have. And I don't want to sit up there and say something stupid.
Yeah.
But I requested that you had to ask what, and this is related to what our discussion today is all about. You had to let the president of the city council know what committees you wanted to chair and serve on.
Mm-hmm.
And I told them that I wanted to be head of the urban planning committee, and which is the economics of the city. Job creation.
So that's economic development and all that.
Exactly, because of my background. And I also served on the public safety committee. And because of my background as a probation officer. And then there was another committee that I served on. I've forgotten what that was. But as chairman of the urban development committee, any business that wanted to open up in Birmingham, they had to come through my committee. Any federal grants for businesses, they had to come through my committee. So I was learning about government and how government interacted with business. Oftentimes people thought, well, the city gives out free money in terms of grants. And that's not the case. They did give money out in grants, but you had to show that you had the capacity to bring your own money to the table in order to get a grant.
Is that what they did with 4th Avenue at the time, or that?
Well, that's a whole different program. But that was under my watch as chairman of that committee. Richard Arrington, who at the same time that I became a newly elected councilman, became the first African American mayor of the city of Birmingham. And it was Dick plan. I never will forget. We were getting 4th Avenue was owned by 2 or 3 different people, just 2 or 3 people. And all of them were white. When I say owned, I'm talking about the buildings were actually owned, with the exception of some property that was owned by, I can't think of the gentleman's name. He was over in Homewood, Dr. Gaston. Those were the only 2 African Americans that really owned property down in that area.
Is that the lawyer's daddy? Man. Yeah. I cannot think.
Arthur Lee.
Arthur Lee, yeah.
His dad.
Yeah, his dad, and I can't think of his
granddad.
His granddad. Okay,
His granddad owned that property right there on 16th Street.
Shores. I know Shores Lee Bill. So his name was.
No. I'm not talking about that building. That was acquired later on. Back in the.
But his dad's name After Lee.
After Lee.
After Lee. Okay.
That's his granddad.
Yeah, granddad. Yeah.
His dad is.
I have to see the award. Yeah. It's the After Lee Award. That's okay.
Arthur dad was Bob Lee, and his granddad was After Lee. But Mr. Lee had bought it was a little restaurant. What was the name of that? They used to have good food down there. In fact, it's still a restaurant down there on that corner, right across from Metropolitan Church.
You talking about Lavos, Miss B's?
Yeah, Lavos. Yeah. Well, it used to have another name that I can't think of now. Anyway, all the property in that area were owned by whites. And they were putting pressure to. They were coming in and getting demolition permits because they were going to tear all of that down. They were going to tear everything down and build it anew. And Arrington came to me and the other council members said, we got to stop this because that's a historical black area.
Mm-hmm.
Other than the Masonic Temple and the pieces of property that was owned by Mr. Lee and Dr. Gasson and the church, everything else is going to be torn down. We put in place a moratorium that prevented them from tearing those buildings down.
Mm.
Well, they were saying, well, you know, they were going to sue the city and this, that, and I said, Arrington said, well, let us come up with a plan whereby if, to give the people who had the businesses there an opportunity to buy their business.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Gradden, Charles Gradden, who had Green Acres, Mr. Nelson,
his dad,
well, Nelson was renting from after Lee.
Okay.
His restaurant, Nelson
Brothers. His dad, right?
Yeah, right.
Yes,
His business was inside, was one of the properties that was owned by After Lee. He eventually bought it from After Lee. But Hornbuckle, his place, the other barber shop, all of those, the old famous theater, all of that were owned by whites. But then they were given the opportunity for the businesses who were in those buildings to buy their buildings. And we set up a loan program combined with a grant program for them to acquire and rebuild those businesses, renovate them, and get them to the point where they actually own the property itself. Well, all of that was part of my first outing as an elected official, and having the ability to give these minority businesses an opportunity to own the buildings that they were in.
Right.
Later on, there was an opportunity to build a new federal courthouse.
Is that the Hugo Black?
Yeah, that's the Hugo Black building. Well, they wanted the powers that be, meaning outside of City Hall, they wanted it to be built at a different location altogether.
The private sector, right?
Right, private sector. That's what I termed the powers that be.
Yeah.
They wanted it to be built east of 20th Street in a more safe and secure area. Well, we as a city government said, no, we've got this property down there. I think Willie Mays used to have a fast food operation right there on 17th, 17th Street and 5th Avenue, right there on the corner. And there was some other little businesses in that whole little block there. I think we got a little Vest Pocket Park there right on the corner.
Is that the Eddie Kendrick Park?
No, not Eddie Kendrick.
So which way?
This is the other one, right across Green Acres.
Oh, that's the park that's right across the
the
mini park.
Yeah, the mini park.
Yes, sir.
But the rest of the block is part of the Hugo Black building.
So that
parking lot and all.
Well, that park that's where Willie Mays' place was.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And I forgot the name of what it was called.
Wasn't it Heysay? No, that's what they call him. Heysay Kid or something. That's what they call him. But I can't think of the name of the restaurant.
Yeah,
I just never knew that's what it was.
Right.
Okay.
So, but anyway, the city had control of that entire block, and Arrington went to Washington, D.C. to convince them that the federal courthouse should be there at that location. Jimmy Carter had come into office, and he was the president then, and he made the commitment that they would put the federal courthouse there. Now, when Reagan came in after that, they tried to move it, but it was by that time the project was so far along they couldn't really move it. Yeah. That's how the federal courthouse came there. Well, what that did, that brought people back down into that area and gave people the opportunity for the little restaurants to be able to get people to move there. We also built the senior citizen home right across the street from the park and across the street from the other location that I was telling you about. So all of that gave me my understanding as to how local government could impact businesses, the quality of life, to bring activity back to an area. But the biggest problem that we had was getting people financing to be able to expand their business. Yeah. Every successful business that you see have a line of credit that they can draw down on to either expand their business, meet payroll, to do whatever a business needs to do to stay in business during hard times and good times. Right. If you don't have a line of credit and you hit a bad spot where you don't have any income,
rainy day,
that rainy day fund.
Yeah.
I don't care how big you are, what kind of deep pockets you have. If you don't have that, your business is in jeopardy of going under. And that's what I was telling you about. My dad said, you got to know a banker.
You got to know a banker.
You got to know a banker.
Got to have a relationship.
Got to have that relationship.
And that's something that Citizen Trust says, relationship banking.
Exactly.
Yes,
exactly.
Yes,
well, but for many years, Citizen Federal, which it was called at the time,
yes, sir.
They only dealt primarily in savings accounts. You could have a savings account, and they would make mortgage loans to churches. That was their bread and butter for a long time. And it wasn't until later on that they started expanding and having checking accounts. I think when they moved around there on 3rd Avenue, right across the street from your old location, in that building, that's when they expanded to have checking accounts and you could borrow money for mortgages. They did very little business loans, but they would do a few, but they did very few at the time. Right. And so it gave me a better understanding of the legacy of black businesses down there in the 4th Avenue area. In fact, you served on the 4th Avenue Merchants Association, president of that organization. That was an offshoot of what we were trying to do to stabilize the area so that all the businesses would be able to come together, say what they wanted for the area, how they wanted to see it develop, and things of that nature. Right.
But I still go back to, you summed it up great on that. Yeah. I still go back to when you was a probation officer. Yeah. That was the relationship that you built with the people. Right. And learn. I mean, and then that's how you was able to smooth into zero. Like, oh, I never built a relationship. I know how to do this, because a young man coming out of college and, doing this, so, and you done got your first flam, the trick, you got tricked, the man. Yeah, he went back over that way. So when you go to zero, now you know how to handle different people and, their attitudes and how they do. All of it goes back to that. But it goes back to teaching your father, first of all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, Birmingham can be a very segmented town, meaning that if you grew up in Titusville, you didn't associate with folks in Smithfield. You grew up in Smithfield, you didn't associate with people in Collegeville. You grew up in Collegeville, you didn't associate with people in East.
And people will be allowed to say it's not like that.
Right, exactly. Yeah. But because I grew up in Titusville and now I was working in North Birmingham and in Collegeville, it changed my whole attitude about what I thought about people. Yeah. People in Collegeville were hard-working individuals, self-sufficient individuals. Yeah. They didn't take no stuff. You couldn't flim-flam, pull nothing over their eyes and all that other stuff.
And them guys come from East Birmingham trying to talk to the girls in Collegeville. They run away. They throw rocks at them the wrong way.
I've been ran out of the Collegeville. But it gave me a better understanding of the quality of the positive quality of people. Right. In other places, because you think, well, my neighborhood, that's the best neighborhood in town. That's the attitude that you have. And even now, if you meet somebody from Collegeville, and I tell people all the time, everybody in Collegeville related somehow, either by blood or by marriage, one way or the other. Everybody is. Yeah. And it gave me a whole different respect for the people out there in the area.
Yeah. So after you ran for city council, well, not now, we gonna go. I remember when I was little, you had the Bell plan.
Yeah.
That was number one. Then you had junior council. Right. When you would bring the children up there. And I was like, man, I want to be a junior council.
Well, I always recognize the fact I didn't get where I was in life on my own. Right. I had a lot of good people get behind me, from teachers to people in the neighborhood. And there was a man named Professor Clifford in Titusville. Mm-hmm. Professor Clifford was an alcoholic, and all day he sit on this little bridge. Back then they had ditches in Titusville, and he sit on this little bridge philosophizing, what we call philosophizing, all day long. You go by there and he tell you different things, and he told me one time, he would tell all of us that he had he was educated in Ivy League school. He had gone to, I think, either Princeton. I think he went to Princeton. And that's why they call it professor. Well, all we knew, he was just a drunk.
Yeah, just a drunk. Yeah.
And he used to always tell us, don't squander your education. He said, education is the one thing that nobody can take away from you.
Right.
They can take your money, your clothes, your house, your car, but they can't take what's inside your head.
Right.
He said, only you got two choices. Either you can waste it or give it away.
Mm-hmm.
And you give it away by sharing it with other people. He said, now, I wasted my opportunity.
Yeah.
He said, I gave in to alcoholism. It just took my life. But that's why I want to tell you young people, y'all need to go to school.
Mm-hmm.
And, when you got a guy sitting on the corner every day and, you thinking about, well, I'm going to goof off today. He said, no.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, little Bill, get on over there. They used to call me Andy in the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
You get on over, go and get to school.
Mm-hmm.
And he would make sure everybody that walk by there on their way to school, he tell them, y'all go to school. Don't be like me. Don't waste it. And so having that encouragement from people, I felt like when I got in a position, I had to give back myself. That's why we had created those programs to give young people a sense of involvement as well. And the Bell plan came, and I got a lot of heat because of the way the Bell plan was funded with the waterworks, funds from the waterworks. But let me tell you how that came about. Carver High School in North Birmingham. It's set over there on the other side of the river. I think it sits between.
In the swamp.
When it rains, it floods.
Yeah.
And there was a man, Mr. Devereaux, was the principal there. Yeah. I had gone out to the school, and it was raining that day. And I got to the school, water was coming in under the door into the school. And I said, well, what's going on here? He said, well, we're in a flood zone. Every time we get a heavy rain, that's what happens. Yeah. Then I noticed as he was touring me through the school, they had this closet about as big as this room, a utility room or something, but it was stacked to the brim with brand new computers. And I'm wondering, why aren't these computers in the classroom? And he told me, he said, the building's electrical system cannot handle these computers being plugged into the walls because of poor electricity and so forth and so on. I said, well, doesn't that impact the kids' ability to get online, do research? He said, yeah. He said, and 90% of the kids don't have Wi-Fi at home. Yeah. And if they don't have the computers at school, they don't have it at home, they're at a handicap. And so that stuck with me. Yeah. And that's why when it came time to try to figure out how do we get money to build new schools and what would be the first new school in Birmingham, well, my plan was to develop the finances using revenue from the waterworks to build new schools in Birmingham. People talk about the 1 or 2 cents sales tax that Langford put in place to help build schools in the county. Most of the revenue to build new schools in Birmingham came from the Bell plan. And I selected Carver as the first school to receive money to build a new school. Right. My wife got on because she wanted Parker to be the first. Because it was the first industrial high school for African Americans.
Yeah, but Carver was over there suffering.
Yeah, I knew the condition that it was in. And I never will forget going to a meeting. We had 2 issues. One, where do you build a new school that's not in a floodplain? 2, how do you convince the citizens that it's the best thing for them? I had a lot of college, a lot of alumni from college, from Carver, that didn't want to move. That's the school that they went to. Yeah. They didn't want nobody touching their school and so forth and so on. But my thing was you're handicapping the next generation. You're not going to be able to build a new school there because it's in the flood zone. You're not going to get the proper licenses to do it. So let's find a location that you can build it. Right. I caught all kinds of heck because of that, and I think that also played into my losing the 1999 election to replace Arrington. Bernard Kincaid came in after that and became mayor. But it didn't matter because I was willing to make that sacrifice. Every time I drive up 65 and I see George Washington Carver, and I wanted to remind people that it wasn't just Carver High School. It was George Washington Carver High School and the significance of what that name meant. that it was named after a man that believed in education, scientific research, excellence in academics. And I wanted the kids to understand that. Now, we didn't do everything that we wanted to do there because it was supposed to have, I don't know if they got a baseball field there. I know they got a football stadium there. They got, I think, tennis courts there. But they didn't have the baseball field, a baseball diamond put there. That's why it was built on an old golf course. Yeah. Now I caught flack from the black golfers, the 5 or 6 black golfers that played out there because they felt like we were taking their golf.
Well, now they over there, Dunn Hawkins, so
they're good now. But it was a situation where I stepped on a lot of toes. But I knew it was important to give the kids an opportunity. Right. Now, I can't guarantee every kid is going to be a scholar or make straight A's and all of that, but at least give them the opportunity to be able to build. Yeah, don't have a flooded building with rooms stacked up with computers and then expect them to be able to compete with kids who got the best of everything in Mountain Brook, got the best of everything in Hoover, got the best of everything.
When I was in school, they had all our books came from Homewood.
That's what I'm talking about.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And I remember I was the president of the PTA at Barrett at one time in my children's school, and they was talking to me about the computers. And they had all these new computers. They only had 2 people to service the computers throughout the Birmingham school system. I said, huh?
Yep.
Only 2. I was like, so I told them, I said, I got somebody can come in here and service these computers right now to get them going in this particular classroom. Now I'm just like, wow, that's crazy.
Exactly.
2.
But what we were asking our students to do is like telling somebody, okay, we're going to put you in this race.
Right.
And we're going to put you on the track field. Now, we want you to put on these galoshes. You know what galoshes are, right? We want you to put these rain boots on. Yeah. And then we're going to put a 50-pound backpack on your back. And we want you to get out there and run this race against the kids over in Mountain Brook. They got brand new track shoes, little thin track outfit.
They got better opportunity.
And we expect you to compete and win. Well, we can't do that to our children. That's the way I was feeling at the time. We got to at least give them a chance.
A fighting chance.
To compete. Right. But that also extended to business. Right. We oftentimes have so many challenges on our backs, even before the race starts, even before the business opportunities.
We got home problems going on.
All kind of problems.
Right.
If you go back and look, and I don't know if it was in 1989, I held banking hearings because of redlining in our district. You know what redlining is?
They was doing it in California.
Yeah, well,
they would only sell. Well, no, redlining was don't sell to black people in this area.
Exactly.
And then once all like the white flight, they said only sell to black people in this area.
Exactly.
Yes, sir.
And part of redlining is that if you own a house in an area, you were lucky enough to get a mortgage. Well, to keep a house up, sometimes you have to get your mortgage refinanced. Well, redlining would allow you to get your house refinanced, to be able to pull some of the equity out, to fix a leaking roof, to get your house painted, to make internal repairs. That's how you keep a house up. That's how you keep up a community. But if you don't have the capacity and the ability to get a second mortgage, not the first mortgage, a second mortgage to keep your house up, the neighborhood starts running down. Everything started turning. Pretty soon, houses become dilapidated. People start moving out. You don't get fresh money to move into an area. And then the whole community suffers because of that quote-unquote redlining. Well, we had banking hearings on that, and I never will forget the head of AmSouth Bank. It may have been First National Bank then. I think they had transitioned to being known as AmSouth. He came in and said that I had no right to question their business decision based on sound financial research. Well, I had done my research. I found that, for example, I found a neighborhood, a white neighborhood, that had the same census tract format or that Fountain Heights had.
Mm-hmm.
I got research from the federal government that showed that people who lived in that white community that had the same income, the same housing value as Fountain Heights,
Mm-hmm.
were receiving loans from the bank at 10 times the rate of people who lived in Fountain Heights.
Right.
Everything else, the demographics were the same. So if you got people with the same income,
Mm-hmm.
the same quality of houses, the same everything, but this group received money at a higher rate than this group, and the only difference is the skin color. There's something going on.
Kind of like in Norwood, they got those federal, is that federal plaque or like with the Jefferson County historic home?
Historical marker, yeah.
They could have been there.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Well,
now they getting federal dollars for having a historic home, right?
exactly.
Okay, okay.
And you start seeing that happening in some neighborhoods, what they call gentrification.
Yeah.
Where
But they want Norwood to be the new Greystone.
exactly. Well, and the problem is those individuals who are able to come in and buy up the houses now on the cheap, but then fix them up,
Mm-hmm.
they're not only able to get that first mortgage to buy the house, they're able to immediately finance it to get construction loans to fix the house up and to raise the quality of that house. Whereas the person who previously lived there either rented the house from somebody who didn't live in Birmingham, who didn't care about the property until it got rocked down, the rocked down value, then somebody could come in and buy it, fix it up, move somebody else in.
And then once they do that, then they kind of brought the property value up. Once they bring the property value, now they can come to you and say, hey, we need to have this house because now they got an HOA.
Well, now, let me tell you, you're right to that extent. There's
Okay.
something even more, what I call pernicious. Look up to your audience, look up what pernicious is. That means something sneaky, something just ain't right.
Because once I start once I start the HOA, now I can come in and start finding you.
Well, that and your property tax start going up.
Yeah, okay.
And a lot of people can't afford the property tax
Okay.
because my neighbor just invested, say, $100,000 in that.
Just 100 in that.
Yeah.
The fixing up of the house.
Yeah, it just fixing up the house.
Yeah.
Well, now my house sitting next door. If they raising the tax value over here, they're gonna raise your tax value too.
Yeah.
Because his house is impacting the value of your house.
Yeah.
Even though nothing has changed at your house.
Yeah.
And a lot of people who, especially those who are on fixed income,
people,
they can't afford it. So they end up selling their house to somebody else.
Or
who comes
losing
in, or losing it, doing the same thing.
Yeah. Man, I mean, it's crazy how nothing's changed, but things have changed in a lot of ways to where it's not still benefiting us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I talked about generational wealth, being able to pass on something to the next generation. One of the biggest problems that we have in our community, we don't believe in wills.
Wills or trust.
Or trust. And the biggest asset that most of us have is the ownership of a home, regardless of whether that home is only worth $40,000 or $140,000.
They ain't making no more land though.
Yeah, they're not making any more land. Well, when you die, if you don't have a will that says where that property should go, who should maintain that property, and to be able to pass it on to somebody, then probate court gets involved. You get a whole lot of legal costs involved. And then folks say,
well, you can't afford the legal cost.
You can't afford the legal costs. The property end up becoming dilapidated. Nobody's living in it. The grandma's house just going to seed, and next thing you know, either a bulldozer knocking it down or somebody else coming in buying it for pennies on the dollar. And but when you're able to transfer that generational wealth of the ownership of that house to somebody else, they got equity in the house.
Right.
They could go say, if you got a house that's worth $100,000, you may have $30,000 or $40,000 worth of equity, meaning money that you can pull out of that house to then go and start up a $30,000 or $40,000 business. And that's what a lot of people don't understand about being able to transfer that wealth to the next generation, so that they don't have to start all over again, going back over the same ground that you covered, you traveled over.
Right.
And that's the key to building our businesses. That's the key to building our neighborhoods and our communities. But a lot of people don't understand how do you bite the bullet and make that happen.
Right. You know, so after you became city council, then you became mayor.
Uh-huh.
And you did very well with mayor. How long were you in mayor?
I was elected in December of December of 2009, the last time.
Okay.
And I came out of office. I had an involuntary retirement in 2017.
Yeah.
So a little bit over 7.5 years.
7.5 years. Okay. Now I remember when you were the president of the Council of Black Mayors. Or something.
Yes.
How was that?
Well, it started out an organization called the National Association of Black Mayors.
Okay.
And but they were having some financial problems, and Kevin Johnson, who was the mayor of Sacramento, former
cool
NBA
dude,
basketball
cool dude.
player,
Yeah, I could have said.
he and I, in fact, I brought him down to the shop to get his haircut.
Yeah.
He, along with several other individuals and myself, said, "Well, we need to have a viable organization."
Mm-hmm.
We had gotten information from the White House. Barack Obama said there was no legitimate black organization for mayors that he could work with. Right. And he said, I need to have that. So KJ, along with Steve Benjamin, myself, about a dozen other mayors started up the African American Mayors Association. Okay. And one of the first things that happened was President Obama reached out to us, invited us to the White House, said, here are the various plans that we have that you can tap into and bring money into your cities. And that's what we went up there and did. That's why every time I went to Washington, I brought back some money from Birmingham. Right. Every time I met with a department head, I got money to bring back to that was all because of my relationship with the African American Mayors Association. Mm-hmm. In fact, they're having a conference this week over in Atlanta. Okay. And it's still a very viable and strong organization. And I would encourage anybody, our current mayor is a member of that organization. If you want to know where the money is and how to get access to the money, you need to be a part of that organization.
Oh, so anybody can be a part of it?
Any mayor.
Oh, any mayor. Okay.
But they have associate members who are not full members, but you get on the mailing list and you can find out what's going on. Okay. And but you don't have the ability.
I think Mayor Wilson said that it's a lady that's ahead of it now? Or
yeah, Phyllis Dickerson.
Okay.
I've been knowing Phyllis, probably the last 20 or 30 years. In fact, there's been a woman at the head of that organization ever since its inception. The first executive director was also a woman. Mm-hmm. But Phyllis has an interesting background in that she used to work for Bill Clinton. Okay. In the Clinton administration. Okay. And she's well connected all across the country. Mm-hmm. She has a relationship with a lot of people inside the White House right now. Right. And so you need those types of people that can open doors for you. Yeah,
I'm big on relationship.
That's the key.
Yeah.
I never will forget first time we met. Were we at the fish market?
Yeah.
Yeah, the fish market. Yeah. And building those relationships is how you get to know people. Yeah. You know,
I got to give a shout out to Big Bobby on that.
Yeah.
Because Big Bobby,
another Collegeville guy.
Yeah. He wanted me to meet you, and when I met you, you know, we were sitting there, and it was me, you, George Sars, Big Bobby, and it was 4 other guys. Yeah. And the man said, he said, William, we're gonna get ready to go, man. I flew my plane down here. And he wants to buy it, so he gonna fly back. I'm sitting there, I'm 17, 16, and I'm sitting there scratching my head like, man, I'm around all this money, man.
But it gave you an opportunity to see how things happen, building those relationships that you have. And I always go back to what Professor Clifford used to tell me when he sat on that corner. It don't do you any good to have the knowledge and not pass it on.
Not pass it on, yeah.
You're obligated to pass it on.
I have been around some, like, I can write a book. God has put me around some amazing people.
Yep.
You know, I was telling somebody this morning, I have been around congressmen, senators, governors, state representatives, mayors, city councilmen. I've been around just everyday working class people who have touched other people, who have introduced me to people, and people like when you said people can't go, you just couldn't go to certain neighborhoods. It's still kind of like that now. I don't mess with the West Side. I don't mess with but me, my name good in every hood. I can go wherever I want to go.
Go anywhere you want.
And people like, man, how you know all these people? I love networking, but I also love networking people with other people. You know, and so that right there, that has helped. It has helped, and I was telling the lady this morning. Shout out to Tina Hutchins. She was on she was on the show a week ago, and I was telling her this morning. I said I learned early that some of the blessings that I got wasn't my blessing. Meaning, like, God had me, used me as a vessel, basically. You know, and I learned that at an early age. Yeah. Because I try not to get in trouble, but I have helped a lot of people because I knew the magistrate to get out of certain situations. So it's like that, you know, and that's what we have to do. We have to sometimes let your guard down.
I'm a firm believer that in order to get a blessing, you have to be a blessing.
You got to be a blessing.
You got to be a blessing.
And a lot of people don't understand that, but sometimes you got to let that guard down and really just see, because everybody's not out to hurt you.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So, Mel Bear, look, I'm truly honored that you came. And I usually don't do daytime, but you know I had to get you because you so busy around here. People really think you at home just, you know, how's Mel Bell? I said, if he in the country, he good. Well, you know, if he's in the state, he's good.
I still belong to some international organizations. Yeah. I still have a wide array of business and personal relationships across the country that I've been blessed. Yeah. I've just truly been blessed, and I give honor to God. I was telling somebody, I left another meeting that I had earlier, and I was telling the people, I sometimes feel like Forrest Gump. Yeah. Because of the people that I've met, the places that I've been, things that being a little nappy-head boy from Titusville that I never thought in my imagination.
That was my next question. I promise you that was my next question. Like, I know you said you just spent them $50 you heard. You said, you know, I'm going to go spend these $50. But my next question going to be, when you was in college, did you ever think that I'd be the mayor of the city of Birmingham?
Let me answer that question like this. The day that 16th Street Baptist Church was born, it touched my soul as a 12 or 13, I think I must have been 13 years old. It touched my soul because, one, I had a cousin who was one of the people who were killed in that explosion. I knew another young lady who was killed, a little girl who was killed in that explosion. And I remember seeing Albert Boutwell, who at the time was the mayor. And I had seen him on TV a couple of other times because that wasn't the first bomb that had gone off in this community. And I kept asking myself, is he the mayor? Why didn't he do something about this? If I was the mayor, I said that to myself, if I was the mayor, I would make sure I did something about it. And in the back of my mind, now I think I planted that seed in my head that I wanted to see changes in my city because I grew up in a segregated society. It was still black and white colored fountains when I grew up. Certain places you couldn't go. The old drive-in theater that used to be at Fair Park. We used to sit on the side of the road watching the movie on the screen. Didn't have no sound because you're on the outside of the drive-in, but just the thought that you could look up there, but you couldn't go inside. And I think the seed was planted. So to say, when I was in high school or college, did I think I would be the mayor? Not on my conscious level, but I think in my unconscious mind, that seed was planted. Going back to seeing that man on TV saying that, you know, he was praying for the family. No, you need to do something. Yeah, it's fine to pray for the family, but you as the mayor need to stop this. You as the mayor, because oftentimes, rightly or wrongly, you know,
Boutwell was the mayor first.
yeah, Albert Boutwell, he was the mayor then. Boutwell Auditorium is named.
Right.
But on the one hand, I felt like the mayor could do something, but on the other hand, having been the mayor just can't wave a wand to make things go away. Each mayor has his own set of challenges.
I was saying that too, like in my mind when you was talking, like I'm sure Mayor Harrison said he ought to do something. Then after Mayor Harrison, who Kincaid, Harrison should have did something. Then after you. Then Mayor Woodford.
No, Langford.
I'm sorry, Langford.
Yeah.
Then Mayor Woodford, right?
Yeah.
So I'm saying, everybody's saying, he got to do something.
Got to do something. And,
so who next?
but when you sit in that seat, or any seat, you're limited in what you can do. You try to do your best. I'm not critical of anybody because, while I've been the mayor, I don't know what the current mayor faces on a daily basis. Because when you've been there, you understand that anything can walk through that door, good or bad. And you just have to be prepared to deal with whatever's out there. And you're not going to solve everybody's problem. When everybody think that you can, you just can't do that. But you do the best you can, and then when somebody else take control, you just say, "I'll pray for you." Because that's the way it is.
So right now you just sitting back and enjoying life.
Chasing after grandchildren.
That's what you say. I know different.
Life is good.
Life is good.
Life is good.
Hey, I done seen you wear more green. I was talking about, hey, I see you wear more green suits. I said, he's chasing the money.
There you go. And like I said, I'm blessed with the contacts that I've made all across the country and internationally. But I'm not satisfied that it's good for me. I still want to see other people succeed. I still want to, if somebody asks me, what I think about something or can I help with something, I'm always quick to say yes. Because there's no sense in me keeping this knowledge up in my head when somebody else can use it as well. So.
Well, man, like I said, it's an honor, and I thank you for answering the call to come, and I know you got some other meetings.
Well,
I'll hold you here all day.
Well, I appreciate that, and I do have to move on, but let's don't let this be the last time.
Yes, sir. I really appreciate it. And really, to be honest with you, every time I have called on you, or every time I have called your phone, you've always answered the phone for me. So that's nothing new, But I really appreciate everyone for tuning in, and the one that will tune in. I appreciate all the likes and shares. If you heard something good that Mayor Bell said, hey, use it. Use it. Put it in your briefcase. You might can use it later on. And that's anybody that's on here. We really appreciate. I mean, you really show up and show out. You always liking and sharing, and just showing me that you appreciate me, and I really appreciate you. So at this time, we're gonna give a shout out to all our sponsors: Green Acres Chicken Downtown, Green Acres Chicken Inslee, Green Acres Realty Enterprise, Yo Chef Surf and Turf. Go get the Birkin bag. That's a hot seller. Or the lamb chops. Get the lamb chops. Try the lamb chops. We want to give a shout out to Partners Tires. Don't slide them girl Dion fellas on them bald head tires. Blaze Hookah Lounge. We want to give a shout out to them too. And we want to give a shout out to you. We really appreciate everything that you do. So keep liking, keep sharing, subscribe to our YouTube, Business in the Cut TV, and the Cut is spelled Kutt. So please subscribe. We really thank you. And we out.